Part 1: The Arrival of the Unexpected. Lieutenant Zara Talon stood at the entrance of the Galactic Combat Academy's main hall, her sharp eyes scanning the crowd of cadets preparing for yet another day of rigorous training. She had seen many species come and go over her years at the academy, each with their own strengths and weaknesses, but today was different. Today marked the arrival of a human. As she observed the other cadets, towering creatures with armored exoskeletons or sleek forms enhanced by genetic modifications, Zara felt a mix of curiosity and skepticism about this newcomer named Ethan Reed. Humans were often regarded as fragile beings in this galaxy filled with powerful warriors. They lacked natural enhancements and were known for their slow regeneration rates. Yet here he was, standing before them in what appeared to be an ill-fitting uniform that did little to conceal his vulnerability. "Is this really our new recruit?" she muttered under her breath as Professor Zelther began his introduction from the podium at the front of the hall. "Cadet Reed," Zelther announced with a voice that resonated through the chamber like thunder. "You understand that this academy trains only the most elite warriors in the galaxy?" Ethan nodded confidently, though Zara could see uncertainty flicker across his face for just a moment. "I do," he replied calmly. A ripple of laughter spread through the assembled cadets at Zelther's words. A particularly large Draconian cadet leaned toward his friend and whispered loudly enough for everyone to hear, "Look at those arms. They're not even reinforced with carbon fiber." Zara rolled her eyes but couldn't help feeling a twinge of sympathy for Ethan. It was clear he was out of place among these formidable beings who had trained their entire lives for combat. "Very well," Zelther continued, mandibles twitching slightly as if suppressing amusement. "You will receive no special treatment here." Ethan's expression remained neutral as he accepted this challenge with surprising grace. There was something about his demeanor that intrigued Zara. It was as if he understood precisely what was at stake but refused to back down. "Report to Training Bay 17 by first light," Zelther commanded sternly before dismissing them all. As she watched Ethan walk away into the throng of cadets, many still snickering at his expense, Zara felt an unexpected sense of anticipation bubble within her. She had always prided herself on being objective and fair-minded. Perhaps this human would prove her wrong. The following morning came quickly. Zara arrived early at Training Bay 17 to prepare for what she assumed would be a rather uneventful session filled with mockery directed at their new recruit. Instead, she found herself captivated by what unfolded before her eyes. Ethan stood alone in front of an array of training equipment designed for species far stronger than he appeared to be. He examined each piece thoughtfully before selecting a set of lightweight combat gloves and stepping onto the training mat. Sergeant Varek entered shortly after, a hulking figure known for his brutal training methods, and immediately fixed his piercing gaze on Ethan. "You think you can keep up?" Varek challenged, crossing his arms over his massive chest. "Let's find out," Ethan replied without hesitation. Zara felt her heart race as she watched Varek initiate their first sparring match. She expected it to be one-sided. After all, Varek had taken down countless opponents without breaking a sweat. But as they began to fight, it became clear that there was more to Ethan than met the eye. While Varek relied on brute strength and aggressive tactics, Ethan displayed agility and strategic thinking that caught everyone off guard. He dodged blows with surprising speed and countered with calculated strikes that showcased an understanding of combat principles beyond mere physical prowess. "Impressive footwork," one cadet called out from the sidelines. Zara found herself leaning forward in interest as Varek began to grow frustrated by his inability to land a decisive hit on this seemingly helpless human. With each exchange, it became evident that while Ethan might lack physical enhancements, he compensated with intelligence and adaptability, a combination that proved effective against raw power. The match ended when Varek finally managed to corner Ethan against one of the training dummies. With one swift movement intended to end things decisively, he lunged forward, but instead found himself grappling with empty air as Ethan ducked under him and spun around for a clean strike against Varek's exposed side. The sergeant stumbled slightly before regaining his balance, but not without acknowledging defeat with an impressed grunt. "Not bad," Varek admitted begrudgingly while catching his breath. As cheers erupted from their fellow cadets, Zara couldn't help but smile at what she had just witnessed. Perhaps this human wasn't so helpless after all. Maybe he would bring something new to their rigorous training program, something unexpected that could change perceptions across species lines. As she stepped forward to congratulate him after sparring ended for the day, Zara realized she had underestimated him completely, and it wouldn't be long before others would have no choice but to do so too. Part 2, The First Challenge. A new day at the Academy. The first rays of artificial light flooded Training Bay 17, illuminating the vast space filled with advanced combat equipment and training dummies. Ethan Reed stood at the center, feeling a mix of excitement and trepidation. Today was the day he would face his first real challenge at the Galactic Combat Academy, and he was determined to prove himself. As he adjusted his gloves, he recalled the sparring match with Sergeant Varek from the previous day. The seasoned warrior had underestimated him, and Ethan had managed to hold his own. But today would be different. Today, he would be tested not just on his physical abilities but also on his mental resilience. The arrival of Sergeant Varek. Sergeant Varek entered the training bay with a commanding presence that silenced the room. His massive frame towered over the other cadets, and his reputation for being a tough instructor preceded him. Ethan felt a knot tighten in his stomach as Varek's piercing gaze fell upon him. "Listen up," Varek bellowed, addressing the group of cadets. "Today, we'll see what you're really made of. You will face a series of physical challenges designed to push you beyond your limits." Ethan straightened his posture, trying to project confidence despite the uncertainty swirling in his mind. He could feel the eyes of his peers on him, some filled with skepticism and others with curiosity. The first test, endurance run. The first challenge was an endurance run around the Academy's obstacle course, a grueling track filled with hurdles, pits, and barriers designed to test speed and agility. As they lined up at the starting line, Ethan took a deep breath, focusing on the task ahead. "On my mark," Varek shouted, raising his hand. 3, 2, 1, go. The cadets surged forward, their powerful legs propelling them ahead with astonishing speed. Ethan struggled to keep pace but focused on maintaining his rhythm. He could hear laughter behind him as some cadets commented on how slow he was compared to their enhanced physiques. But Ethan refused to give in to despair. He remembered the training sessions back on Earth, how he had pushed himself through long runs and tough workouts. He may not have been as strong or fast as some of them, but he had heart. Finding his strength. As they approached the first obstacle, a high wall, Ethan felt a surge of determination. He watched as several cadets leaped effortlessly over it while others stumbled and fell. When it was his turn, he sprinted toward the wall, timing his jump perfectly. To his surprise, he cleared it with just enough effort. "Not bad for a human," shouted Cadet Lyra from behind him. Her tone was teasing but not unkind. Ethan smiled despite himself and pressed on through the course. The next challenges included crawling under low barriers and climbing over pits filled with foam blocks designed to simulate various terrains. With each obstacle he conquered, Ethan felt more confident. He learned to adapt quickly, using techniques he had practiced back home, ways to leverage his body's weight and momentum effectively. The final stretch. As they neared the end of the course, fatigue began to set in for many cadets. However, Ethan found a second wind. He pushed forward with renewed energy, focusing on each step as if it were a dance move rather than a struggle. When they crossed the finish line, Ethan was surprised to find himself among the top finishers, not first place but certainly not last either. He could hear murmurs of surprise from those around him. "Looks like our human friend isn't as helpless as we thought," one cadet remarked. Varek clapped his hands together loudly to regain everyone's attention. "Well done. But don't get too comfortable, this is just the beginning. The next challenge, strength test. After a brief recovery period, Varek gathered them again for the next challenge, a strength test involving lifting weights that were calibrated for various species' capabilities. Ethan felt apprehensive. Strength had never been his forte compared to others who could lift several times their body weight with ease. "Pair up," Varek commanded. Ethan found himself paired with Cadet Rax, a towering figure from a species known for their brute strength and resilience. Rax looked down at him with an expression that seemed both amused and curious. "Don't worry, I'll help you," Rax said with an encouraging nod. Learning from Rax. As they approached the lifting station, Ethan observed how Rax effortlessly lifted weights far beyond what he could manage alone. But instead of feeling defeated, Ethan focused on what he could learn from this experience. "Use your legs more than your back," Rax advised as they prepared for their turn. "And remember to breathe." Ethan nodded and took a deep breath before attempting to lift a moderate weight that felt daunting yet manageable. With Rax's guidance, he adjusted his stance and utilized proper lifting techniques that emphasized leg power over sheer upper body strength. To his surprise, he managed to lift it successfully, and even more surprisingly, Rax cheered him on enthusiastically. "You're stronger than you look," Rax exclaimed as they switched roles. A growing respect. As they continued through the strength tests, Ethan began to realize that while he might not possess raw power like many of his peers, he had other strengths: determination, adaptability, and an eagerness to learn from those around him. By the end of the session, Varek called for everyone's attention once more. "You've all shown improvement today," he said gruffly but with an underlying tone of respect that hadn't been there before. "Even you, Reed." Ethan felt a swell of pride at those words. It was one thing to earn respect from fellow cadets but another entirely to gain acknowledgement from someone like Varek. Reflections after training. As they left Training Bay 17 that day, Zara Talon approached Ethan with an approving smile, a rare sight given her typically stern demeanor. "You did well out there," she said genuinely. "I didn't expect you to hold your own against Varek's challenges." "Thanks," Ethan replied modestly but couldn't help feeling elated by her compliment. "I think you might just surprise everyone here," she added before walking away. Ethan watched her go, feeling a sense of belonging begin to blossom within him amid this galaxy filled with powerful beings who had initially dismissed him as weak or helpless. He knew there would be more challenges ahead, but now he felt ready for anything that came his way. With newfound determination fueling him forward into whatever lay ahead at this academy of warriors, Ethan Reed was no longer just a helpless human, he was becoming something more, a contender in a galaxy that wasn't quite ready for what humanity had to offer. Part 3, The Unexpected Ally. A New Alliance. The morning sun, filtered through the Academy's artificial atmosphere, cast a warm glow over the training grounds. Ethan Reed had just finished his second day of intense training, and while he was exhausted, he felt a sense of accomplishment. He had faced challenges he never thought he could overcome, and he was beginning to earn the respect of his peers. However, he knew that the road ahead would be filled with even greater obstacles. As Ethan walked toward the mess hall for breakfast, he spotted Cadet Rax leaning against a wall, his muscular frame relaxed but alert. Rax was a member of the Korath species, known for their incredible strength and combat skills. Ethan had admired Rax's abilities during their strength tests and felt a growing respect for him. "Hey, Reed!" Rax called out, waving him over. "You did well yesterday. I saw you pushing through that endurance run." "Thanks," Ethan replied, feeling a bit shy but grateful for the compliment. "I'm just trying to keep up." Rax chuckled, his deep voice rumbling like distant thunder. "You're doing more than just keeping up. You've got potential. If you want to get better, I can help you. Training together." Ethan's heart raced at the offer. Training with Rax would be an incredible opportunity to learn from one of the best. "I'd really appreciate that," he said earnestly. "Great. Meet me at the training bay after lunch. We'll work on some techniques that will suit your style," Rax instructed. After breakfast, Ethan felt a renewed sense of purpose as he joined his fellow cadets in various training exercises. He paid close attention to their movements and strategies, eager to absorb as much knowledge as possible before his session with Rax. The training session begins. When lunch ended, Ethan made his way back to Training Bay 17, anticipation bubbling within him. Rax was already there, stretching and preparing for their session. "Let's start with some basic footwork," Rax suggested as Ethan approached. "You need to be quick on your feet if you want to avoid getting hit." Ethan nodded and followed Rax's lead as they practiced various stances and movements. Rax demonstrated how to pivot quickly and change direction fluidly, skills that were essential in combat situations. "Remember," Rax said as they practiced, "it's not just about speed, it's about control. You need to know where your body is at all times." Ethan focused intently on Rax's instructions, feeling the rhythm of their movements begin to synchronize. As they continued to train together, Ethan started to feel more confident in his abilities. Learning unique techniques. After an hour of footwork drills, Rax decided it was time to introduce some combat techniques. "We'll start with basic strikes," he said, demonstrating a powerful punch followed by a swift kick. Ethan watched closely as Rax executed each move with precision and power. "Now you try," Rax encouraged. Ethan stepped forward and attempted the punch first. He put all his weight into it but quickly realized it lacked the fluidity that Rax had demonstrated. "Not bad for a first try," Rax said encouragingly. "But remember to follow through with your movements. It's all about momentum." With each attempt, Ethan felt himself improving. He learned how to channel his energy effectively and began incorporating footwork into his strikes. The combination of speed and power was exhilarating. A moment of doubt. As they continued training, however, doubt crept into Ethan's mind. He couldn't help but compare himself to Rax. His strength was undeniable, while Ethan still felt like an underdog in this environment. "Is it really possible for someone like me to keep up with all of you?" Ethan asked hesitantly during a break. Rax paused, looking thoughtfully at Ethan before responding. "You know what? It doesn't matter where you start, it matters where you're willing to go from here. I see potential in you because you have something many others lack: determination." Ethan felt a surge of hope at those words. Perhaps he could carve out his own path in this academy after all. Building camaraderie. As days turned into weeks, Ethan and Rax trained together regularly. Their bond deepened as they shared stories about their respective worlds and cultures. Rax spoke of the fierce battles fought by Korath warriors while Ethan recounted tales from Earth that fascinated his friend. One afternoon during a break between training sessions, Cadet Lyra approached them with a curious expression on her face. "What are you two doing? It looks like fun." "We're working on some combat techniques," Rax replied casually. Lyra raised an eyebrow skeptically but then smiled mischievously. "Mind if I join? I could use some practice too." Ethan exchanged glances with Rax before nodding enthusiastically. The more the merrier. A new dynamic. With Lyra joining their training sessions, the dynamic shifted significantly. Lyra brought her own unique style. She was agile and quick-witted in combat scenarios, often surprising both boys with her unexpected moves. As they trained together, they began forming strategies that combined each of their strengths. Ethan's adaptability, Rax's power, and Lyra's speed created a formidable trio. One day after an intense session filled with laughter and friendly banter, Lyra turned serious for a moment. "You know what? I think we should enter the upcoming interspecies competition together." Ethan's heart raced at the thought. This competition was known throughout the academy as one of the most challenging events designed to test teamwork among cadets from different species. "That sounds like an incredible idea," Rax exclaimed enthusiastically. "But do you think we're ready?" Ethan asked hesitantly. Lyra placed a hand on his shoulder reassuringly. "We've been training hard together, we can do this. Besides, it'll be fun. Preparing for competition. With their decision made, the trio dedicated themselves even more fervently to their training sessions leading up to the competition date. They practiced not only combat techniques but also teamwork exercises that emphasized communication and strategy. As they worked together day after day in Training Bay 17, each session filled with laughter and determination, Ethan began feeling like he truly belonged among these exceptional beings from across the galaxy. The camaraderie they built transformed not only their skills but also their confidence in one another as teammates, a bond forged through sweat and shared goals that transcended species differences. Facing challenges ahead. As the competition date drew closer, excitement buzzed through the academy like electricity in the air. Cadets were preparing themselves mentally and physically for what lay ahead. The stakes were high but so were their spirits. Ethan stood before a mirror one evening after training. He examined himself closely. He might still be human in a galaxy filled with powerful beings, but now he felt ready for whatever challenges awaited him next. With newfound allies by his side and determination burning brightly within him, Ethan Reed knew he was no longer just an outsider. He was becoming part of something greater than himself, a team ready to face whatever trials lay ahead in this vast universe where humanity would prove its worth against all odds. Part 4: Rising Tensions. A new challenge approaches. The Galactic Combat Academy buzzed with anticipation as the date of the interspecies competition drew near. Cadets from various species were preparing themselves for the grueling tests ahead, each eager to prove their worth. For Ethan Reed and his newfound friends, Cadet Rax and Cadet Lyra, this competition represented not just a test of physical abilities but a chance to showcase their teamwork and determination. Ethan felt a mix of excitement and anxiety. He had come a long way since his first day at the academy, but he knew that competing against elite warriors from across the galaxy would be a formidable challenge. As he walked through the training grounds, he could see other cadets practicing their combat techniques, their movements fluid and powerful. "Are you ready for this?" Rax asked, catching up to Ethan as they approached the training bay. "I think so," Ethan replied, trying to sound more confident than he felt. "But I can't help but wonder if we're really prepared." "Of course we are." Lyra chimed in, her voice bright and encouraging. "We've trained hard together. We've got this." The announcement. As they entered Training Bay 17, they found it filled with cadets discussing strategies and tactics for the upcoming competition. Suddenly, Colonel Thorne, the head of the academy, stepped onto a raised platform at the front of the room. The chatter quieted down as all eyes turned toward him. "Cadets!" Thorne's voice boomed through the hall. "In just 2 days, we will hold our annual interspecies competition. This year, we have an exciting lineup of challenges designed to test your strength, agility, and teamwork." Ethan felt his heart race at the mention of the competition. He exchanged glances with Rax and Lyra. Their expressions mirrored his own mix of determination and nervousness. "Teams will be formed based on performance in training sessions leading up to the event," Thorne continued. "I expect each of you to give it your all. Remember that this is not just about individual glory, it's about representing your species and showing what you can achieve together." Growing rivalries. As Colonel Thorne concluded his speech, Ethan noticed some cadets eyeing him with skepticism. A group of Draconians whispered among themselves, their scales shimmering in the artificial light as they pointed in his direction. "Look at that human," one of them sneered. "He thinks he can compete with us." Ethan felt a rush of heat rise to his cheeks but tried to shake off their disdainful remarks. He had faced ridicule before, it was nothing new. Still, he couldn't deny that their words stung. "Don't let them get to you," Rax said quietly, sensing Ethan's discomfort. "They're just scared of what we can do together." "Yeah," Lyra added with a determined nod. "We'll show them what teamwork looks like." Training intensifies. In the days leading up to the competition, Ethan poured himself into training alongside Rax and Lyra. They practiced relentlessly, focusing on their strengths while also working on areas where they needed improvement. Rax taught Ethan how to harness his agility in combat scenarios, while Lyra helped him refine his speed and reflexes. They developed strategies that combined Rax's brute strength with Lyra's quickness and Ethan's adaptability. One afternoon during training, while practicing a series of complex maneuvers, Ethan stumbled slightly during a particularly challenging sequence. "Focus!" Rax called out encouragingly. "You've got this." Ethan took a deep breath and reset his stance. He visualized their upcoming competition, how they would work together as a cohesive unit rather than individuals competing against one another. With renewed determination, he completed the sequence flawlessly this time. "That's it." Lyra cheered as she clapped her hands together excitedly. "See? You're getting better every day." Tensions rise among cadets. However, not all cadets were supportive of Ethan's progress. As the competition approached, tensions began to rise within the academy. Some cadets openly mocked him during training sessions, while others whispered behind his back. One evening after a particularly grueling day of training, Ethan sat alone in the mess hall feeling disheartened by the negativity surrounding him. "Hey," Rax said as he joined Ethan at the table. "What's bothering you?" "I just feel like no matter how hard I train, some people will never accept me here," Ethan admitted quietly. "They'll come around," Rax replied confidently. "Just keep proving yourself through your actions." Lyra joined them moments later with a plate full of food. "Let's focus on what we can control, our performance in the competition. We'll show them what we're made of." Ethan smiled at her enthusiasm but still felt a lingering doubt gnawing at him. The night before competition. The night before the competition was filled with restless energy as cadets prepared themselves mentally for what lay ahead. In their shared quarters, Ethan couldn't sleep. Thoughts raced through his mind about how they would perform against some of the galaxy's best warriors. As he lay awake staring at the ceiling, he heard soft voices coming from Rax and Lyra's side of the room. "Do you think we'll really be able to win?" Rax asked quietly. "We have to believe in ourselves," Lyra replied firmly. "If we work together and stay focused on our goals, anything is possible." Ethan listened intently to their conversation. It filled him with hope amidst his uncertainty. The day of reckoning. The following morning dawned bright and clear, a perfect day for competition. The atmosphere in the academy was electric as cadets gathered in front of Colonel Thorne for final instructions before they headed out to the arena. "Remember," Thorne said gravely as he surveyed all participants with keen eyes, "this is not just about winning, it's about showing your true potential as warriors." Ethan stood among his teammates feeling both nervous and excited. This was their moment to shine. As they made their way toward the arena where challenges awaited them, obstacles designed to test every aspect of their training, Ethan took a deep breath and steeled himself for whatever lay ahead. With Rax by his side and Lyra's unwavering support behind him, he felt ready to face whatever challenges awaited them in this fierce competition that would determine not only individual glory but also redefine what it meant for humanity within this vast galaxy filled with extraordinary beings.